Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to play How It Started versus How It's Going Star Wars Edition.
There you go.
We're going to talk about this telegram that's resurfaced from Fox where they're talking about how excited they are for Star Wars. This is going to be something that transforms the motion picture industry.
Which it did.
It did. They were very correct, and then we're going to kind of fast forward to today, where a lot of outlets are calling the time of death on Star Wars. Now, this is before The Mandalorian, which we saw a flicker of hope.
No, they smashed that out real quick.
And it was quickly snuffed out by poor decisions that were made. Even Forbes, Star Wars may never recover from the damage done by the Rise of Skywalker.
I say it predates that to Last Jedi.
Yeah, no, Scott, it was before. But, I agree with the sentiment. And then we'll talk about some crazy George Lucas rumors. We'll throw that in here. So before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We're over 192,000 subs. Hoping for 200,000 soon. So hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. We do talk a lot about Star Wars, not as much as we used to, because we are frankly losing interest in it.
I still like classic Star Wars.
Classic Star Wars.
I do.
Classic Star Wars.
I always will, sorry.
Ewoks.
Ewoks, yay!
Little yub nubs.
I love them. So anyway, this is not a news story. It started in 2015. StarWars.com had it. But it resurfaced. Someone on Twitter was sharing it. I thought it was interesting, so I did a story on it. But they're talking about back in November of 1976. Okay, way back. This guy here, who was the vice president of domestic distribution for 20th Century Fox, Peter S. Myers, had sent out a telegram, or I think he sent it out. He sent out the telegram. And he was talking about how excited they were and how they're getting early reports back from people about how this movie is going to be groundbreaking. And which it was, because it's pretty much changed pop culture as we know it. And it pretty much all these directors out there will all tell you, or a lot of artists and different people will tell you, Star Wars is why they do what they do.
Yeah.
So it literally is the driving force for thousands and thousands of people in the industry for like motion pictures or comics or whatever. So this is what the 4-page what was it? A telegram said.
Telegram.
Here's the message. I actually have the pages, but I transcribed it for you.
Oh my god.
So it's talking about how excited they were, and this is months before it came out, guys. And they knew it was going to be groundbreaking. And they're talking about how people that worked on the film or were associated with, your company worked in it, or they knew Gary Kurtz or George Lucas. They said that their reports have been so gratuitous that I tended to take them with a grain of salt. Much like some YouTube reports anymore.
Yeah.
And then they said, but that their exhibitors are terribly, terribly interested in this film. And they're already saying it's number one choice for what they think is going to be the biggest summer picture.
Yeah, that was an understatement.
Yeah.
That was a massive, massive understatement.
But it's interesting because you get to look at how they leverage theaters and stuff too. But they said that Alan Ladd Jr. saw a rough assemblage without music, special effects, or dubbing. And as conservative as he is, he flipped, claiming it's the best picture he'd ever seen.
Okay, well.
Now, wait.
Okay.
In context.
This
came out in 1977. Okay. So yes, when you compare it to pictures you see now and technology you have now, of course it doesn't seem that impressive. But at the time, it was something that they had never seen before. No one had ever done like this before. And it was groundbreaking, and it was revolutionary, and it was exciting, and it launched everything that we have today.
That is true, because right after Star Wars, that sort of ushered in the Spielbergian era. Spielberg and Lucas are good friends, but like right after Star Wars, we had all of, we had Jaws before Star Wars, but we had a lot of,
but
Spielberg
it wasn't
sci-fi.
The same.
Yeah.
It was the one of the spacey movies and all that. And they didn't have that then, guys. They didn't have the special effects were kind of invented to do this stuff by Lucas, a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, you take it for granted now and you're like, yeah, it was hokey. But at the time, it was like the best thing ever. Like it was mind blowing. And they talk about that. They said that they claimed the picture has a look never seen on screen before, and it's so believable you never feel it's other than the present, even though the location and equipment are space in the year 2000 plus.
In the year
But they said
2000.
actually, it was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So they got that wrong.
It was a rough cut.
Right.
cut. So maybe they didn't have the scroll.
So they said the best report for me, I love this, okay? I think all of you will relate to this. The best report for me, that it is so realistic and that you really do become involved with and care about all the characters. That was why he thought it was going to do fantastic. Never been seen before, anything like it. And you care about all the characters. Hollywood. You need to make characters people that relate to seem realistic and they give a shit about. Hey, this is the key right here. Found it for you.
Found it.
They said that he had a good idea and they were, took the guts and the foresight, because I remember it was a hard sell for Lucas to get someone to pick it up. And they're doing it. So they're talking about when you relate all of this to domestic box office potential, you have to admit that exceptional entertainment usually pays off, still does. But when it's coupled with a spectacular and innovative presentation, the critics, the opinion makers, and the public will be electrified, and it is quite possible Star Wars will emerge as the all-time box office champion.
And yeah, it did. Kind mostly. I think I'm trying to think if Gone with the Wind, if it adjusted for inflation, or Wizard of Oz, but I mean it was massive. There was nothing like it at the time, and we've gone from Star Wars being a cultural phenomenon, a game changer, to just another Disney property, just another science fiction movie franchise in rapid decline.
Just something else from the leverage to try to make money they don't really care about. And then they talk about the theaters, and this is interesting, about how they were going to have it released on the 16th or 23rd in about a dozen major cities. And they said they would let other cities take part if they would play on the release date, run at least through the end of July, and pay the exceptional terms outlined above, whatever that was. I think this is parts of it. Then it talks about how you get the theaters to get on board. But I thought what was interesting was there's like a story that says blockbuster. The term blockbuster was invented because of Star Wars. Well, actually, he uses a term. He says theater becomes unbooked when the blockbuster becomes available. So we debunked that rumor because they used Blockbuster before Star Wars.
Yeah.
Clearly, because this came out 6 months. This telegram's from 6 months prior to the film.
So based on a rough cut, which wasn't even the final cut.
Because there's no sound or effects or dubbing or anything.
Yeah, they were editing this thing like right up to the release date too, as I understand it. It was actually George Lucas's wife, I think, that did a lot of the editing, and they don't really talk much about that.
Ex-wife, yeah.
Ex-wife, yes. Wife at the time. Ex-wife now. But yeah, I mean, they knew they had something. They were super excited about it, and all the hype was organic, because I remember back then, like, they didn't have the Hollywood hype machine.
No, they said they only released it in like a dozen studios to start, or theaters to start, and then they talk about how the general release is going to be June 29th, which makes sense because it had time for word of mouth and buzz, and it was like the biggest thing ever. I mean, and I see videos even from Empire Strikes Back, and they had people waiting in line. Bunch of diverse people, by the way. Yeah. There were women there. There were people that weren't white. And, imagine that, because they just invented diversity, a few years ago. And it's a damn shame that Star Wars was never diverse and never appealed to diverse audiences until Disney made it diverse. Oh, shit. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I hate when it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've seen these pictures, we've seen these videos, we've seen this archival footage of, lines around the block. Star Wars played in theaters for some cases a year or two.
And they brought them back multiple times. Back then you had like theaters, movies that played like for like a whole year or for months and months.
Well, it's like I didn't see, because I was too little, I didn't see Empire Strikes Back in the theater the first time it came out. I saw it, they released it a couple months before Return of the Jedi, and that's when I saw it. So for me, it was like, everybody's like, man, we had to wait 3 years to find out what happened to Han Solo. I'm like, it was just like last Christmas. I went to go see it, and then... But it was a big deal, and these movies did stay in theaters for a while. I remember seeing this meme on Twitter, and they were talking about all these great movies that were in the theater in 1987, somewhere in 1987. I'm like, some of those came out months and months and months before the other movies, But I remember like Gremlins and Ghostbusters and all that stuff being in theaters for a long time.
The last one I remember being in theaters, because they didn't have as many films back then. And the last one I remember being in theaters for a ridiculously long time was Home Alone.
Home Alone, yeah.
Yeah, that's the last one I can recall that was in theaters for like a year.
Avatar,
for months and months.
Avatar was, but they kept bringing out, and they did this with Endgame
that's
too.
Different.
Yeah, they would have like an extra super duper special version now with more PS2
They do
Hulk.
it to try to see who gets to be #1 spot on the films of all time. But
Home Alone went into like the summer.
It was almost a year in theaters.
Yeah, because it was at Christmas, and I remember it was still playing. It was
yes. I was at my grandma's and I was sick, and I remember, and this was like the next school year. It was like September, October, and they were talking about how it had been in the theater since the Christmas before and heading on a year. And back then, it wasn't unusual to see movies in theaters for months and months. They didn't have the bazillion movies they make today. Like you had some movies, but there was nowhere near the amount.
Yeah.
That we're getting now. So it was interesting because they had total faith in this movie. And then, I think it was hard to sell at first. And then after they saw it, because sometimes, and we've run into this, you have an idea, but it's hard to sell people on your idea because they can't see it. Mm-hmm. But then when he had it there to show them, they're like, oh my God, this thing's going to be gigantically enormous. Yeah. And a lot of the actors didn't think so when you hear interviews, but the people behind the scenes clearly felt it was going to be a big deal.
Yeah, and because people had so little faith in the movie, like Lucas got to keep a lot of the merchandising rights. It
doesn't happen now.
No, and this is kind of like Harry Potter too. They're like, it's just another book, whatever, theme park rights.
One thing I want to say here, as I said, I'm saying the picture should get better treatment than Godfather, King Kong, Jaws, Poseidon, or Towering Inferno in regards to its release.
Better than Towering Inferno?
Well, they even bring that up. They said, general release, you have to have the same patterning as Towering Inferno to give proper clearance. But they put this thing, and back then, these were like the big movies at the time. And they were a lot darker films back then. He basically, like all the big films that we know right now, nothing compared to this.
And kids today don't even know what the Towering Inferno is.
I do. I remember Towering Inferno. My dad watched it. I remember that one.
Poseidon, nobody, Proto-Titanic. Think Proto-Titanic, right?
And I don't think Titanic isn't even that big. It never, I mean, as far as like a movie.
It was big, but not like
it hasn't
Star
stood the test of time. Like, I mean, hell, let's be honest here. Avatar hasn't stood the test of time like they keep trying to push it.
Oh, God, yeah. Avatar, if it wasn't for the theme park, people would be like, oh, yeah, I remember Avatar.
And the only reason it was big was because it was that new 3D, that newfangled 3D technology. Yeah. People wanted to go see it. I mean, let's be honest here.
Presentation. They talked about presentation. Yeah, a lot of people, Avatar was their first and sometimes only 3D movie.
I can't watch any movies. It made me sick.
Tron gave me, oh my God.
Headache.
We went to go see Tron Legacy in 3D, and I was like walking into stuff.
Yes, you couldn't walk right afterwards. Yeah. It made your head hurt. Yeah, it was not a pleasant experience. So I always prefer to not watch movies in 3D. But go ahead.
So we go from that to
fast forward to the current year.
And we see how far Star Wars has fallen in terms of public appeal, in terms of its fandom, that media outlets are calling Star Wars dead, and I think a lot of it is because of Disney's handling of the franchise. I mean, the prequels didn't do as well as the original trilogy. It's hard to catch lightning in a bottle. Mm-hmm. It is, but George maybe should have had some help. Maybe should have had a little bit of help with prequels. A little bit. I mean, the basic story was, and I've said before, the basic story of the prequels was very good. Just the execution was
the dialogue and stuff.
Anyway, Disney managed to actually drive interest in Star Wars below where it was with the prequels. Because I remember even during the prequels, as much as they were panned by critics and whatever, the toys still sold.
Everybody was at the theater. Even when the prequels were there, you had to wait in line to get in. And the third one, they were, if it was so terrible, why did you have to wait in line? It wasn't until like hindsight, people look back on it like, it wasn't good. And then Disney said, hold my beer.
Yeah, and they started out strong with The Force Awakens, at least financially, and we saw declining returns movie after movie. We had Solo, which should have been a slam dunk. You take one of the most popular characters from the original trilogy, put him in his own movie, written by the guy who wrote Solo and The Empire Strikes Back. It should be good. Ron Howard, it's got cred, and it didn't do well. And
there's a lot of reasons for that, but
and too many cooks, right?
Well, I think that's the big problem. When they had the original films and the prequel films, it was, George Lucas and the people he was working with overseeing the films and getting it done. Now it's Disney by committee. Decide, and if you do anything with Disney, I got to tell you, how many revisions would things go through for just a message, like a post you had to make, like a Facebook post or something they wanted? Yeah. You would have to go through so many committees.
Well, it's kind of funny, though, because you talk about like the Hollywood machine and how George Lucas despises it. And the reason,
so do we.
The reason that Skywalker Ranch is outside of Hollywood, Northern California, is because, back in the day, it was pretty far removed from LA. And, he just kind of did his own thing there. And we heard a story from someone who worked on the Star Wars Holiday Special that the reason he went to Canada to find animators was he wasn't going to work with anybody in Hollywood. That's how adamant he was. That's how much he hated Hollywood.
He knew how this shit was played. Yeah. A lot of actors don't live in Hollywood for reasons. I mean, it's a joke. I personally not. I mean, you might love Hollywood, and you might live there, and that's cool. I'm not trying to bash you in any way. I don't like Hollywood. I think it seems very fake, and I don't like that.
So speaking of George Lucas, should we delve into this?
Go ahead.
We did not think this warranted its own video. A lot of people have covered it. A lot of news outlets are covering it because it is a massive, massive rumor. There might be a kernel of truth to it. I'm not going to say there isn't.
There was people saying before that, he's appeared on the set multiple times, and he's been in meetings. But he's been in meetings like Favreau and Filoni and stuff, which makes sense because he's been on set with Favreau and he knows Filoni because they worked together on Clone Wars and stuff. And they were saying that they were trying to find a position for him, but he didn't like it. And that was a couple years ago. I heard that several places, but, that's all I heard about it.
Yeah. Hey, George, you can be our company mascot here at Disney.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be the mascot. He wants to be he wants to have a say, which, understandable. Then he'll get his money and a say, too. I'm like, at that point, it's like, who wins now, bitch?
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, is it too late to give you your money back, Disney? I'll just take that off your hands.
Yeah, I don't think he'll do that.
So there's a rumor going around that George Lucas might be coming back to at least try to right the ship, and that he might actually put some money into. I don't know if
they can right the ship. They've already ruined it.
I don't know. And then and this is coming from, I think it originated with Doomcock I want to say Doomcock on YouTube, who did, specify this is a massive, massive rumor. But again, we've seen George Lucas on set. The type of person he is, the type of personality he clearly is a control freak.
You understand that?
I couldn't imagine him just walking away. I mean, you look at him you look at the documentaries on the prequels, and he was having people revise designs for monsters like these and aliens and stuff. These are things that, just pass it off to your production people, let them come up with some designs, whatever. No, he was like, no, do this and maybe move this.
But there was a difference in that too, though. If you remember, we were talking to our one friend who does watch this, Jason, and he was talking before to me at a convention about how back in the day when they had the toys come out, it was like an event because you knew you were going to get something really cool you had never seen before, like new vehicles, new creatures. It was always, they were like these, massively new things. And it was very important to George Lucas to make sure that he had these brand new environments, these brand new tech, the brand new creatures and things. It was really important to the story and to move for toys and engage kids and people into the story. You don't get that with the new movies. It's basically like the old stuff's already been there and they just repurposing it. It's like you're not getting some big new something. Yeah,
that was the thing about the sequels is they really felt very pedestrian. Like we'd seen literally everything in those movies. We'd seen it before.
The vehicles, everything. It didn't feel like they were trying even to do something new.
I don't think they were. I think this is the Star Wars by committee factor. I can totally see a Disney marketing person sitting down being like, Stormtroopers sell, X-Wing and TIE Fighter, they sell, Millennium Falcon sells. These are the toys we want to make. We got to keep Stormtroopers, X-Wings, TIE Fighters.
They even put the stupid, not stupid, but they put the AT-AT walkers in the Rise of the Resistance, and there's absolutely no reason for them to be there.
Yeah, they were
Other
the
than the
original
fact that
trilogy.
it just proves they repurpose that the whole
Yeah.
theory about them repurposing. What do people love? They love the walkers. Let's put that in here, even though there's absolutely no reason to have it in this.
Yeah, because
at all.
the walkers in the sequels look very, very different.
Right, so there's no reason other than the fact that it goes along with the idea and the rumor that they had planned it to be the classic Star Wars, and then they changed it because they made a bonehead decision, add it to the list, and they still have it in there. But that could be brought. But that also shows that they can flip it to classic at any time because all the elements are there.
Oh yeah, they could just be like, okay, well now it's Endor.
Now it's Admiral Akbar.
Now it's Admiral Akbar. We're gonna reskin. We're gonna just paint him red. It's Admiral Akbar. We've already got digital Luke Skywalker. So take Rey out of there. Put digital Luke in R2.
Yeah, and and
Grogu
whoever
maybe,
else,
whatever the hell,
whoever else you want to put in the hologram room, and then you're on. It's instead of Kylo Ren, it's Darth Vader.
Yeah,
and Tarkin or something.
Yeah.
And you're on because Star Destroyer wouldn't change. You have the walkers that make sense for classic trilogy. I mean, it would be easy as easy peasy to change Rise of the Resistance to classic trilogy.
Everything in Galaxy's Edge could be
It feels
repurposed.
that way.
It could be repurposed into Endor and Tatooine. Very
If they
easily.
had done Hoth, that would have been awesome. But anyway,
You need a lot of snow.
well,
fake
did that have to be
snow.
real snow?
Yeah, it does. Authentic.
Well, they could have made snow. Anyway, I'm sure there's reasons. But
Go skiing on Hoth.
yeah.
Oh my God, that'll be the next DVC. It'll be the Hoth DVC.
Yeah.
And they'll just they'll blow some fake snow in, and you can go
Well, I'm waiting.
skiing.
What I'm waiting for is when they finally get the prices on the Star Wars hotel, because the prices they were giving for that were before the pandemic, before they lost money, and they are trying desperately to scratch back anything they can get back, claw it back at raising prices. They just released the prices for their Boo Bash today, which was the new version of the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. It's the modified version where instead of getting parades and things you want, it's little cavalcades might drive by. Instead of trick-or-treating, well, there's some free ice cream bars and snacks, and it's like basically like a half of what you got with the other event. They're not even running at the same amount of hours. The other one was like 7 to midnight, you can get it at 4. Now it's 9 to midnight, you get in at 7. And they're charging 50 some bucks a ticket more than it was before the pandemic. So that's what they're going to do. I can't wait to see the prices on this hotel. It was $3,000 ish, a room a weekend before. I can't wait to see what they jack the price up to now to try to get money back and take it from the fans.
That is Disney in a nutshell. You basically pay more for less. And that's kind of
that Star Wars. That's what we got for Star Wars. You pay more for this shit.
So I think we're gonna wrap this one up.
Yep.
But there we go, guys. Long time ago, galaxy far, far away.
It was good.
It was good. It was good, and people were excited for Star Wars now. Like they groan when Disney announces something new.
And for anybody who's been a longtime fan of Star Wars, it really is heartbreaking that this is what's happened to it. Because everybody wanted it to be good. I remember when they had the trailer, when you hear about The Force Awakens, and you thought you were gonna get all the gang back together, and they didn't even let the Han, Luke, and Leia be together. But everybody was like so excited. I can't even remember seeing people so excited about anything, and then they completely flushed it down the toilet to the point where people don't even give a shit now.
Yeah. Thanks, Disney.
Yeah, good job.
Good job. Yay. All right. Gonna wrap it up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.